Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Glory Glory My Night podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Quinn, and joining me today is Daniel from Red Devils TV. How's it going, Daniel?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Thank you for the invite. Obviously, we've spoken a few times about making this happen, and I'm just looking forward to a great show.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a pity that this is not happening under better circumstances. Um, like the title says, United lost in very, very controversial circumstances to Arsenal at the Emirates. It was a real sickener from a United fan point of view because we thought we had won the game, or at least got very close to winning the game when Garnacho had the ball in the back of the net, and then it was chalked off by a very, very tight offside decision. And we'll certainly get into those types of decisions as we talk. But then Arsenal then scored from a set piece, and there was some people reckon that Evans was being fouled by Gabriel. If I'm being honest, I think it was 6-1, half a dozen of the other. There was also a decision earlier in the game where Saka caught Bruno Fernandes with his studs. I've seen that being given as a red. I mean, it's similar to what Casemiro was sent off for last season against Southampton, if you remember. Um, Arsenal had a penalty chalked off because, well, for me, I don't know why there's still a debate about this. Because for me, Havertz puts his leg into Wan-Bissaka and goes down. He's clearly trying to con the officials there, so I don't know why that's even debatable. They got to the right decision in the end there, in my opinion. Um, but as a United fan, I just feel aggrieved that we had a goal chalked off. I know their technology says that it was offside. But here's my issue with that and why I don't trust their decision making. Because in Europe, in the European leagues, in the Champions League, they use automated offside software, which is basically artificial technology, which tells you for sure whether the player's offside or not. But in England, they still have officials manually drawing lines on the screen, which is not foolproof. It's not an exact science to me the way the AI is. Um, it's another case of the PGMOL trying to be different from the rest of Europe. Um, so I love to see, would that have been onside or offside using the automated offside software that they use in Europe. Anyway, if you're given an offside because somebody's fingernail is offside, for me the goal just has to be given. If you have to, in my opinion, if you have to draw lines in the first place, it's a goal because it's clearly what happened to the benefit of the doubt goes to the attacking team. Yeah, so overall, I just didn't think that it was a game that was 3-1 to Arsenal. I think we deserved a draw at the very least, and it's just the most awful way to lose a game. So, what was your thoughts on it, Daniel?
For me, I felt like the scoreline was very flattering towards Arsenal. Winning 3-1 against Manchester United is going to be in every single headline. Obviously, if you want to argue the case, they should have won 2-1 realistically, but what happened, United had some sort of belief where that we were going to push forward and try and get a second goal for us when we only had two shots on target all game. And we tried going all out attack for the last remaining minutes of the game. And then Arsenal were very composed. They knew they could hit us on the counter attack. With a simple interception, Gabriel Jesus is through and sits down Diogo Jota by not Jota, Diogo Dalot by sending him to the shops, and then also Onana just couldn't save that third goal. So in hindsight, I do believe that United were robbed, I could say, because there were so many situations in that game where it should have gone United's way and not Arsenal's. But United weren't good in that game, but for me, I see that game as an improvement because with the game, United haven't played well for me all season. We've luckily got a 1-0 victory against Wolves. We got battered by Spurs in that second half. Third game was just an embarrassment from Nottingham Forest's perspective by us conceding 2 goals within 5 minutes. And then yesterday, it was one of them games where we scored instantly, and every single football fan knows this, whether you're a United fan, whether you're a City fan, or whatever team you support. You know that when you score a goal, you're at your most vulnerable once you score that goal. And Arsenal knew this because they pushed up the field and they punished us instantly. United players were still celebrating the goal, and and Arsenal just go and score. Like, you've still got Harry Maguire picking his nose and like celebrating on the bench. Like, I just thought it was a real lack of concentration from United's perspective. Who do you want to blame on the first goal? I mean, it was a power shot by Odegaard. No keeper saving that because he just drifts into open space. Ericsson lost his man. That's who I blame for the goal because he just didn't intercept it at all. But it was a brilliant manoeuvre by Martinelli. He created a brilliant chance. And what I've looked back at the game, and I really don't understand why Lindelof was marking Martinelli on that sense. I don't know why Wan-Bissaka wasn't, because Martinelli was kept quiet all game with Wan-Bissaka, but then as soon as Lindelof goes onto the right back position, Martinelli gets that chance to Odegaard, and Odegaard buries it, and then it's 1-1. So for me, I think it was just a complete lack of concentration from Man United's perspective. And Arsenal weren't very good in that game either. It was a game of two teams that have a lot of quality in their squad, and both teams just didn't perform well. And United, unfortunately, didn't pick up any points.
Yeah, when United went 1-0 up, it was exactly like last year or in January this year. Rashford scoring with an early goal, and immediately we were all saying, please do not concede as soon as we scored like we did last year. This time we conceded even sooner than we did last year. It was like 35 seconds or something. I know the old cliche goes, you know, you're at your most vulnerable whenever you've just scored, but United absolutely take the biscuit when it comes to that. Like you say, the marking was non-existent, and Odegaard just had a free strike on goal, and he absolutely buried it. Um, and then I looked at, and then again after, um, the goal was chalked off from Garnacho. We went to pieces. I can understand from a psychological point of view why that happened. And as soon as the 8 minutes went up on the board, I was thinking Arsenal going to score here. I could just see it coming a mile off. Um, and it just added insult to injury. You know, to think that you had won the game and then you end up losing the game 3-1 in the end. Um, it was the afternoon really wasn't helped by the fact that another two defenders got injured during the game, and we're now down to Maguire and Johnny Evans as our centre back pairing, which is not good enough for Manchester United. I mean, Maguire is a player that United want to move on. Johnny Evans is 35. He left the club 8 years ago, and rather than buying a starting centre half, you know, which we should have done in the summer, because we know Varane always gets injured, we've brought back an aging Johnny Evans, who was deemed not good enough 8 years ago. And I know a lot of people are fans of him. I know he was decent in his prime, but he didn't look good at pre-season at all. I mean, he even got roasted against Wrexham, and wasn't pretty good against Bilbao. Um, yeah, so it was dire straits when your back four is, you know, Wan-Bissaka okay, but Maguire, Evans, and then Dallo, a right-footed player, a left back. Albeit he did okay for most of the game against Saka, but it's very much a makeshift back four for United. And if Martinez and Lindelof, I don't know what the prognosis is yet, but if they're going to be missing against Bayern and Brighton, we are in serious trouble. So anything that can go wrong is going wrong for Manchester United at the moment. The pressure is certainly mounting, and a lot of off the field stuff going on at the moment. We got like a semi resolution to the Greenwood situation with it being loaned out to Getafe, and then now there's allegations being made against Anthony, which is exactly what we don't need. And then the whole Sancho and the manager stuff. Now the manager's been here before with Ronaldo, and obviously Maguire as well. Manager's not afraid to make big calls and challenge people. He is, if him and Ronaldo didn't get along because Ronaldo wasn't starting regularly. Ronaldo did an interview with Piers Morgan and then his contract was cancelled. Rashford, I mean, against Wolves last season, he was late for a team meeting. The manager then dropped him for that game. Um, and so Sancho is nowhere near. He's not of the standing of Rashford or Ronaldo, and yet he's now challenging the manager. There can only be one winner. Now, I uh, I don't know what goes on in training. We're not privy to that, but Sancho does have previous with Dortmund of lack of discipline, not turning up on time to team meetings. Of England, he didn't feature in the U21 tournament until the quarterfinals because Southgate wasn't happy with his training. Um, but if I'm going to be balanced about it, I would say that s- Martial has been useless. Um, Anthony is not been up to scratch so far this season. And Sancho has not been given a sniff. And Sancho did decent in pre-season, so he's probably feels aggrieved that he hasn't got a chance this season. But that's not an excuse to slack off in training, though. Um, yeah, so I definitely will come down the side of the manager in this one. And when the manager criticizes you in public, the worst way to respond is to put out a statement on social media defending yourself. He could face internal discipline now, and I don't see any way back really between him, the player, and the manager. I know the Saudi window is still open, but maybe not enough time to get that done. But yeah, I think this is the beginning of the end for Sancho, really. So, what's your thoughts, then, Daniel?
With the Sancho situation, I believe he's completely in the wrong. And you mentioned there that Sancho hasn't gotten a sniff. I disagree because Sancho has had a 30-minute cameo every single game this season, apart from yesterday, of course. Apart from the game against Forest, he's been average. When he came on against Wolves, did nothing. When he came on against Spurs, did nothing. You could say that he created a start of a chance against Forest, but is that what we're applauding now? Are we applauding that you're not having a shot on goal, you're not getting assists, but we'll applaud you that you start a creative of a chance. Like for me, I think that that's kind of the issue with Sancho because he feels like that any little thing that he does should be like worshipped in a way. And that doesn't sit well by me because Sancho, you're on 350 grand a week. You're one of our most paid players. And Kyle, I don't know if you saw the videos today, but a video came out of Sancho during training, and a load of the players are doing press ups, and Sancho is doing the crappiest press ups you'll ever see. He's literally keeping his arms straight and not even going halfway down. He's just doing like a tiniest little motion. And he might be thinking, oh, I'm doing this because it's an intense session. So what? You've been under the manager now for over a year. You should be used to his training schedule by now. And again, so many people saying that Sancho hasn't got a sniff in. Like he only played 100 minutes less than Anthony last season, which says a lot. Anthony, I thought like Anthony played every single game. Clearly not. If you look at the stats, stats don't lie. Sancho played only 100 minutes less than Anthony last season. Now, yes, you can argue which player you prefer, which player you think is better, but I just think that Sancho is like kind of protected by his fan base, and I can understand why. We bought him for a big price. Obviously, we had that whole segment of trying to buy him a year before we actually got him, but the Glazers didn't get him in time, and they had to wait a season later to sign Sancho. So with Sancho, I really respect and like the quality of the player. But like you said yourself, Kyle, he's had disciplinary issues in the past. There was times that even before he went to Dortmund, his time at the Manchester City academy, Pep Guardiola dropped him in the youth game because I believe it was something to do with a haircut or something. Apparently, he got one of them stupid haircuts, and Pep Guardiola like laid down the foundation that that's not allowed. You mentioned the England situation and Dortmund situation. So it's clear he's got a disciplinary issue. And realistically, I don't want to play like that at my club. You saw yesterday, in the game that Casemiro and Rasmus Højlund, the passion they showed. You had a point when Højlund came on the pitch, and we were going up for I think it was a corner or something, and Casemiro grabs Højlund's shirt and like shakes it and like screams at him. That's passion. That's what you want to see from your players. You look at Garnacho, a player who has been punished from a disciplinary issue of last season, but look what happened. He took a step back, realised that he's not bigger than the club because he respects the manager and worked his arse off and became a better footballer. And now he's benching Sancho. So if that's a young 19-year-old doing that, then Sancho needs to be looking at himself in the mirror and be like, what am I doing wrong? Because if a youth player, a youth graduate of Manchester United is getting ahead of me, what am I doing wrong? It can't be down to favouritism. It can't be down to Eric, it says favoritism, but it can't be down to anything else but your own individual performances. And for me, it's clear because we only see the players on brief clips from training schedules, and we see him for 90 minutes every single week, apart from international breaks. Eric Ten Hag will be observing them every single day in training. He'll have his staff observing them in every single day in training, and they will know the full situation, what's going on. And us as fans, we're here to talk about it. But for me, Sancho was completely in the wrong, making a public statement on social media, which is never a good situation. And for me, I feel like that if he wants to leave Manchester United, then leave, because I don't want any type of players at this club. I thought we got rid of all these players when we got rid of Lingard and Pogba, but clearly we've got a few other players like this lingering in our football club.
Yeah, and as Simon says there, he's demonstrated immaturity with that social media post. That was the wrong way to respond to what the manager said on Sky Sports. Um, yeah, so the best resolution is probably for Sancho to move on, and I think that's what will happen either in January or next summer. He could find him now after that outburst. He could find himself in a situation where he gets even less game time than what he was getting. He could be just left out of frozen out completely now. Um, I do believe, according to Dominic Booth in the Guardian, they're going to have what they call, you know, crisis talks. I'm not sure that's how you described it, but you've heard that term a lot in football. So they're going to have this week sometime. They're going to sit down and talk about it, but potentially their relationship could be beyond repair now. And yet, I can see why now the manager gets accused of showing favoritism towards Anthony. But one thing you can say about Anthony, um, that he brings to the table that Sancho doesn't, and that's work rate. Sancho definitely does not bring work rate. The FA Cup final is a prime example. I mean, it's the biggest game of the season. You're trying to stop your rivals from winning the treble, and Sancho just very, very one paced again, not really doing much when City are in possession. And the manager was having to go at him several times from the touchline. So, yeah, I think this relationship has been, it's there's been issues for a while now, I believe, and it's now come to a head.
Yeah, just
Um,
to, just to add on that, Kyle, is that I don't know if you remember, but about 4-6 weeks ago, when Manchester United released the players that were up for sale, it was Harry Maguire, Henderson, Scott McTominay, Alex Telles, Brandon Williams, all these other players. And then right at the bottom of the list, it said two players. It said Anthony Martial and Jadon Sancho. And it only said Jadon Sancho if the right price came in. So clearly, something's gone wrong there. Clearly, the United or Eric Ten Hag will allow Jadon Sancho to go if a team comes in with the right money. You don't see Bruno Fernandes, Rafael Varane, Lisandro Martinez, like Marcus Rashford, any of these players, these aren't on the transfer list. So it's clearly that there's an ongoing issue with Eric Ten Hag. And again, something else that's really annoying me about Sancho as well, about the fact he's also really disrespected Eric Ten Hag, is that last season for what was it, 2-3 months, Sancho didn't play a single minute of football because of his mental health issues. Like Eric Ten Hag gave him the opportunity to work on himself. Eric Ten Hag set himself up with a private academy or training schedule in Holland so Jadon Sancho could go work on himself. Not many managers would do that. Not many managers would let their players leave mid-season when we've also got an injury crisis and where we're trying to, get top four. But Eric Ten Hag just was like, you know what, Sancho, I would much rather you come back a better player than you be miserable and not have your head screwed on whilst you're here. And that's what the type of manager Eric Ten Hag is. And that's where I feel like, especially with that statement, Jadon Sancho threw that back in his face. I also think this is also partly to blame of Southgate. The fact that Southgate hasn't picked him for the England international. I think he spat his dummy out there because but again, you've not proved yourself in an England shirt, mate. You missed that penalty in the Euros final. And you've hardly played for England since. I don't think. But maybe he's played against a random country in the Euros qualifiers or something. I'm not too sure, but Sancho, just like you said, his work rate isn't there, and with a manager like Eric Ten Hag, he's not going to take any shit off Sancho or any player.
Yeah, he hasn't played for England since October 21, I
There
believe.
you go.
And Southgate is looking vindicated right now. Southgate took a lot of criticism from United fans for how he's treated Sancho, but it's hard to criticise Southgate right now. In terms of the debate among the fans as to whether you'd rather have Sancho or Anthony on the right, for me it's neither. If I'm being honest with you, I'd rather Palestri would get my vote on the right hand side, especially if Hoyland is going to be the starting striker now, because Palestri is the man that's actually going to provide him with some service, some crosses. All Anthony wants to do is cut inside and shoot into the far corner. And even though he worked hard yesterday, Anthony, he was poor yet again from an attacking point of view, giving the ball away again and again. The silly decision making, and he's very very one dimensional, as you know, very very left footed. Um, yeah, so he's been very very disappointing, and I don't think he's worthy of a place in the starting 11 at the moment. How do you feel about it, Daniel?
You see, funny enough, I gave Anthony my man of the match yesterday, and it was between Anthony, Wan-Bissaka, and Dalot that I gave my man of the match to, and I went with Anthony because with Anthony, he's really improved from last season. You can see he's trying to work on his game. You can see that, like last season, tracking back, Anthony hardly did, but yesterday he was tracking back. He was making sure Martinelli didn't have any space to move away from Wan-Bissaka because Wan-Bissaka was near our box, and Anthony was tracking back and he was cutting out the passing lanes for Martinelli. So in that sense, Anthony did really well. Obviously, there's a discussion on his final third, by output. You could say that was a bit lackluster. But again, we're going up against a team that challenged Man City for the league last season. It's not an easy team. It's not a walk in the park. And, Anthony, for me, I think he played well. And you could say he was the best out of a bad bunch, is the best way to describe it. But for me, I thought Anthony stood out of all our attackers, apart from Rasmus Højlund, because Rasmus Højlund, I got so horny when he came on the pitch. Honestly, I watched him when he played for Atalanta. I watched him when he played for Denmark. I love this striker so much, and I mean, I've got a poster of him on my wall already, so that's literally describes it all. But I really can't wait to see how Rasmus Højlund plays for us. But before Rasmus Højlund came on, I thought Anthony was our standout attacker. Rashford, apart from scoring that goal, did nothing all game, in my opinion. It was a beautiful through ball by Eriksen, but apart from that, Rashford offered us nothing. Martial, I felt like he played okay, holding up the defenders and stuff. But it seems that with Martial, he's kind of like a pawn on a chessboard. You use him to draw out the bigger pieces on the chessboard, your knights, your bishops, your king and queens. But that's the way Martial seems to be betrayed and used at Manchester United at the moment, because we know what Martial does. He plays with his back to goal. You've got Anthony and Rashford running ahead of him, getting between the defensive lines, and Martial will make a pass because he's not got that poacher's instinct. And that's where you see the best out of Rashford and Anthony, because they're getting in between the defensive lines. But when you're playing against a team like Arsenal, that's not going to work every single time. Now, I know that United are going to win against Brighton after the international break. You might be calling me crazy because Brighton are playing absolutely insane at the moment. But I think over these next 2 weeks, Eric Ten Hag will be talking to these players that have stayed behind. We'll get Amrabat in, no doubt he'll play against Brighton. So I'm very confident that United will beat Brighton when we come back from the international break. That's just me being confident because I feel like that this happened last season. I mean, you remember last season we beat Liverpool 2-1 at Old Trafford. Everyone was on the rise. Then we got a draw in our next game. Then it was the international break. And then we came back and went on a massive run until we lost to Man City 6-3 at the Etihad. Then what happened? We went on a run. We returned back from international break. We lost to Aston Villa 3-1 at Villa Park. And then guess what happened? We went on a run and we won and won and won. And I can say to you, that's exactly what's going to happen because all it is with Manchester United at the moment is the consistency and the away from home consistency, in my opinion. At home, we're an absolute dominant, we're a fortress. And Brighton have got their hands upon them on that opening game of the season. Sorry, that opening game after international break.
Yeah, I agree with what Simon's saying here. Top four this season is probably the aim for United. Uh, Definitely not going to be a title challenge based on the evidence we've seen so far. And Man City are so they've 12 out of 12 points. They're so consistent, and United are just not going to be able to. Just don't have the resources to challenge them this season, unfortunately. But um, I agree. Hoyland is a very exciting prospect, but I also think there's an element of the cameo that he produced yesterday. I think we've been so starved of a number nine who holds a ball up and puts himself about, and does the basic number nine things. We've been so starved of that for years that when we actually see it happening in front of our eyes, we're actually so excited about it, and maybe overstating how good he was, but I do think that he is going to be a brilliant signing. You if he gets 15 to 20 goals this season, that'll be an amazing start for him. I'm not expecting Harry Kane numbers in his first season, but I do think he has the ability to get there. So I wanted to see him start against Brighton. And the sooner he gets his first goal, the better. I'm sure he can't wait to play in front of the home crowd at Old Trafford. Yeah, I wanted him on sooner, to be honest. I would have started him yesterday and brought him off after 60 minutes or so because I just think, like you say, Martial is just a pawn to distract defenders. He doesn't really offer anything else at the moment.
I
Um,
disagree on that sense because I think that Eric Ten Hag won't start him against Arsenal in his first game of the season. I don't think if Eric Ten Hag knew that Hoyland wasn't ready. Like I believe that. I mean, you say that we've been starved of a natural number nine doing these things, but for that goal for offside of Garnacho, did you see that flick that he laid off to Fernandez
oh,
with his
yeah,
best
yeah,
ball?
yeah, yeah.
Again, it was a very short cameo of Hoyland, and for me, he impressed me so much because again, like you said, we've been starved of a natural number nine for ages, but we've had number nines at the club in recent years. You've had Lukaku, you've had Cavani, you've had Ronaldo. And yes, whether you want to say that these players were good or not, or they were past it, you can literally say that we have had number nines, but the service isn't there. It's called the graveyard shift for a reason. We don't create for our number nines. And in an Eric Ten Hag system, this is where we need to be clever now because I have no idea why we signed Mason Mount, in my opinion. I don't know why we signed him, but I like the signing, but I just don't understand it. But with Hoyland, that was our issue for majority of last season. We didn't have a natural number nine. We literally got rid of Ronaldo, who hardly was playing anyway. Then what happened? Glazers, with their ingenious scouting, decided to let Cody Gakpo go to Liverpool. Oh, and I know. You know what? Joel, yes, Avram, I've got a brilliant idea for you. How about we scout a Dutch player who plays for Burnley but is currently on loan in Turkey? Yeah, there's this player called Wout Weghorst who's available on a loan transfer. Shall we get him? Brilliant, Avram. That's a brilliant piece of business. Well done, you. Let's go and get him for 6 months. It was shite. That's literally what it was. It was absolutely shite. Martial's built like a poppadom. He breaks at every given opportunity. So yes, I am horny for Hoyland. You know, I have been starved for ages, and you know what? I'm fucking hungry. And I'm sorry for my language, but I can't wait to see Hoyland play, and I'm sick to death of some people in the fan base that I see on Twitter criticising him, saying that, well, I told you so. He's not good enough. We've bought a prospect too early. And you know what? Shut up is all I have to say. But anyway, Kyle, you take it away before I get any more annoyed.
Yeah, it was a magnificent flick, the build up to Garnacho's goal, which was a goal in my opinion. I'm not going to have anybody tell me any different. Um, yeah, so that's only a wee teaser of what's to come from Hoyland. I think everybody's very excited now after watching that cameo. Um, yeah, just I think I actually personally think it was the right decision. People are saying we should have got Keane, but Keane is 10 years older. I like you mentioned Cavani, Ronaldo there, Ibrahimovic, Falcao. These players are all coming towards the end of their careers. We've got a guy whose career is only starting, and that's really exciting as well. Um, I think you see yesterday, despite if you take out the decisions, if you look at United's performance and what happened in the game from an attacking point of view, I'm actually was more downbeat after beating Wolves than it was yesterday. I'm actually more upbeat after a defeat, which is a strange thing to say because Hoyland really excites me. Amrabat is still to come in. He's going to add a lot of steel to the midfield. I mean, if he was playing yesterday alongside Casemiro, it's a totally different game. It's just unfortunate that he wasn't registered on time. A lot more to come from Garnacho. That was a brilliant run and a brilliant finish from him. Um, we're going to see him get better and better. Sky's the limit for him. And my only concern at the moment is the Maguire and Evans partnership. So how do you feel about that? If we have to play them two in the next few games?
Well, it's the reports have come out and said that Martinez isn't injured. It was just a precaution. That's why he was taken off, which I understand, because you're gonna try and prevent an injury than risk one, if you want to say. So yeah, I understand why we took off Martinez. He went down, and you just didn't want to chance it. But he's gone with Argentina to international break. He's still having some medical checks, but the reports have come out and said that he's okay to play football. Varane, we don't know how long he's going to be out for. So, and again, Lindelof was seen limping, leaving the Emirates yesterday. So it could be one of Johnny Evans or Harry Maguire, which isn't ideal realistically, but there's nothing else we can do. I mean, United have a massive injury crisis at the moment, not just in the centre back areas. I mean, you look at it now, we've got Varane out injured, we've got Lindelof out injured, we've got Luke Shaw out injured, Kobe Mainu, Amad Diallo, Tyrell Malacia. There's pretty much our defenders already. You've now got Mason Mount, and the list goes on. You've got Tom Heaton, you've again, the list just goes on and on and on, and it's so annoying, in my opinion. But it happens. Injuries happen in football, and there's nothing we can do about it. So all we've got to do is back the players that do play, and hopefully we just get games over the line. But if Maguire does play or Johnny Evans does play against Brighton, then it will be a much harder game. But again, if actions speak louder than words. If Harry Maguire all season, all summer has hyped up that he's been doing extra training throughout his summer break, he doesn't want to leave Manchester United for West Ham because he wants to fight for his place. Well, there you are, Harry. Here's your golden opportunity. If you have a chance to play, you take your opportunity and you prove us all wrong because the manager wants to sell you. I could say probably 90% of the fan base want to see you sold. So realistically, prove us wrong. You be the captain that you think you are, you be the player that you think you are, and you be the man you think you are. And you shut us all up because I will be the first to make an apology video to Harry Maguire if he shuts us all up because I know there's a player there. I know Harry Maguire's a decent player. He's just for me not United quality, and that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. So for me, it's Harry Maguire's golden opportunity. If we have these injuries with Varane and Lindelof, no doubt it'll be ahead of Evans. So if Maguire thinks he's this good of a player, then like I said, prove us wrong.
Yeah, it's what I always say to United players that I don't particularly rate is prove me wrong. well, especially front players who are not scoring goals. Say, go on, put the ball in the onion bag and prove me wrong. And yeah, likewise with Maguire, this is his golden opportunity, which he wanted. Um, so he looks like he's going to get that chance in September. With all these mounting injuries, Martinez, I believe, has went on international duty with Garnacho there. So not sure how much he's going to play with that injury that he came off with. Um, Lindelof, I believe, was ill going into the game and played, through that and seemingly had to come off eventually. But so he might be okay for the Brighton game. Um, yeah, you don't want to be going to the Allianz Arena with Maguire and Evans as your centre back partnership. That would be a bit scary, from a United fan point of view. But coming back to the game, you were saying that your man of the match candidates were Anthony, was it Dallo and
Dallo and Wan-Bissaka.
Wan-Bissaka? Well, for me, you'd have to add Christian Eriksen to that list. I mean, that ball for Rashford's goal was out of this world. He was spraying the ball about magnificently in the first half. We've seen the best of Eriksen in the first half, but in the second half we've seen the worst of him because you see his legs were gone again. I don't know how he managed to play the whole game. The manager was taking a risk there. That's
And
he's
that's the thing with me. Obviously, you said that. Obviously, that's why I didn't include Eriksen as my man of the match because again, that assist was absolutely beautiful again for Marcus Rashford. I mean, it happened last season at Old Trafford, if you remember. Eriksen with a beautiful pass to Rashford. Rashford ran between the lines and scored a goal. This was the game at Old Trafford. And again, it happened yesterday. It was a beautiful pass by Eriksen. But at the end of the day, you said as well, by probably about the 60th minute, his legs were gone. And that's my issue with Eriksen because he doesn't have the stamina, doesn't have the fitness. And this is why I'm hoping that whilst Mason Mount is injured, Amrabat comes in for Eriksen. And then if we need to create a bit more at the end of the game, that's when you bring on Eriksen. A bit fresh legs, a player with an amazing footballing IQ who will provide a lot of chances for you. And that's when we can start scoring goals. Because it's clear Eriksen's an impact player when it comes to coming off the bench. And I think he knows that's his limit now. I think he knows he can't play 2-3 games a week like he did last season. Because that's what pretty much caused his degeneration and the tiredness from him. And, he was out for a long time with his injury. So with Eriksen, I do like the player. It's clearly he's not a defensive player like Erik Ten Hag's playing him in, but that's not Eriksen's fault. He's playing where he's being told. But I don't know how many times Erik Ten Hag needs to learn that Eriksen does not track his runners. Eriksen doesn't do that, and this is why we conceded the first goal because it was even before the second half started. He lost his man, which was Ødegaard, and Ødegaard just buries it in the back of the net. So again, that's why I haven't given Eriksen my man of the match. You might obviously disagree because it was a brilliant assist to Rashford, but yeah, for me, Eriksen doesn't go there for my man of the match.
Yeah, I remember in the 6-3 at the Etihad last season, Ericsson losing Foden the same way for one of City's early goals. So yeah, he doesn't really track runners. I don't think playing deep is really suited to him. He can't do all aspects of that role, but like you say, his footballing IQ is very very high. Um, yeah, and an ideal world, you would have him as an impact sub, but obviously with Mason Mount being injured, he's been drafted into the starting 11 again, and Amrabat not available yet. I think from here on in away games against the big sides, or maybe even in home games against the big sides, we're going to see the Casemiro Amrabat partnership and Bruno playing ahead of them. I think that would be the ideal approach, and then Ericsson can come off the bench if need be,
Definitely.
because you need to be solid when you're playing against teams that, let's face it, on paper are better than us.
And
And
let's face it as well. The majority of the teams now they play with pretty much two number sixes and an advanced 10. That's how the game's played now in midfield. You play with, I mean, you look at Chelsea at the moment, whether they're playing good or bad. You've got Caicedo, you've got Enzo Fernandez, and then you've got whoever they're rotating in the midfield. They've got sitting back number 6 in Caicedo. They've got advanced. They've got a number 8 in Fernandez who can play as a 6 or go forward. So for me, now this is where I see it. Now, a lot of people are expecting Amrabat to come in for Ericsson, and Amrabat's the one doing the running up and down the game, up and down the field as the box-to-box midfielder. I disagree. I believe that Amrabat's going to be the midfielder that drops between the defenders, and Casemiro is going to be the one that goes forward because we saw a lot last season. Casemiro's got a goal in him. He likes to score goals. He creates goals. I would not be surprised if Casemiro's the one who gets a lot more free time when it comes to going forward with the ball. And Casemiro will be counting his lucky stars that he's getting a player like Amrabat who will take away that extra defensive pressure that Casemiro's having to be doing so much. But like I said, I like Ericsson. I've got nothing against him. I mean, the guy died 2 years ago and still better than Havertz. So, I believe that Ericsson's a brilliant player. So, I just feel like that he's a lot more impactful coming off the bench.
Yeah, Havertz has been a major disappointment for Arsenal, but we all seen it coming. Uh, that signing didn't make. No, you said Mason Mount didn't make sense as a signing. Havertz certainly didn't make sense from an Arsenal point of view, and he's been very underwhelming. And he tried to call on the referee yesterday. Let's face it, and the right decision was made in the end. I I did initially complain about the jostling between Evans and Gabriel for Rice's goal. Having seen it from a few angles now, it looks like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Um, why on earth was Declan Rice totally unmarked in the penalty area from a corner? He just allowed to take the ball down at the back stick and just pick a spot. That's
Well,
absolutely outrageous.
I said in my preview that because I do previews on my channel, and I said on my video that we've got to be careful of Arsenal on set pieces, especially corners, because they overload the back post. And if I can see that, I've done coaching. I've coached like football teams before. I've done my share bit of coaching when doing set pieces, doing drills and stuff. And I'm not no pro coach, but I even know that Arsenal overload their back post, especially on corners, and that's every single corner they had. They had about 6 or 7 corners yesterday, and every single corner they did would be aiming for the player on the back post. And it was a lucky goal by Declan Rice. His shot was going nowhere near the goal. It was a terrible shot, but it was a lucky deflection and it went off Johnny Evans. And
Maguire,
unfortunately,
wasn't it?
I thought it was
No,
Evans.
no, it was Evans. Yeah, it was.
So with that, I mean, I was the first one to try and blame. I was like Maguire. No, it's Evans. Never mind. I was close to blaming Maguire, but with obviously it was a lucky goal, and Onana even gets a hand to it. It's very hard for goalkeepers to judge a shot when it is deflected, and it does completely knock them off balance because they go to dive, but then they have to quickly react because it's deflected. So it was a lucky goal from Arsenal, and that was the game. That was the game winner. But that's when they won the game. And then United, we put all our eggs in one basket by going all out attack, and then Arsenal broke us on the counter attack and scored their third. So I thought, like I said, Arsenal. I've already said in this video, Arsenal didn't perform well yesterday, and United didn't perform well either. But United were just robbed. I'm going to say it because you don't have to tell me. Like you said, it was onside. I feel like that. I'm just gonna say it. It was onside. I don't know how many times I have to say it. And again, I've looked at the penalty for Hoyland. You had the refs coming out on their little show they do on every Monday after the games, and they talk about what decisions were, controversial. And what happened? They all hold each other's hands. They all are like, "Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, we don't go against the ref's opinion because then we look bad." That's what they do, and they're always going to support the ref's decisions because that's the way they do it. They've got to protect themselves. But if I was literally to do that if that was to happen outside of the box, that's a free kick. if you've got Gabrielle literally holding down Hoyland, and then Hoyland goes down, fighting him off, that's a free kick. So why isn't it a penalty?
It,
And that's my argument here. And even today, I watched the show with the refs today, and the female ref or I don't or pundit, whoever she was, I don't know who she was. She had the lesbian haircut. I don't know, you might know who she is, but anyway, what she did was that she turned around and said she messed up because all the other refs were like, yeah, it wasn't a penalty. It wasn't a penalty. And she turned around and said this. Well, Gabriel is putting his arm around him and he is trying to drag down Hoyland. So you can understand why Hoyland goes down, but it isn't a penalty. She's literally admitting why it would have been a penalty, but she decided to say it wasn't a penalty. And this is my issue with the media and the pundits because it's so scripted. And Kyle, I don't know if you watch the show or not, but you definitely know that before they go live or before they do a show, they all talk about what they're going to talk about and what to agree with. You know it because it's corrupt and it's scripted.
if it was the other way around, they'd be saying it's a penalty. Yeah, I mean, clearly Gabriel has his left arm wrapped the whole way around Hoyland's body, and forces him to the ground. I mean, he's Gabriel is on Hoyland's left shoulder. On on the right hand side of Hoyland's body, you can see Gabriel's hand. His arm is wrapped the whole way around him, clearly obstructing him, and then taking him down and falling down on top of him. I mean, like you say, it's a free kick outside the area. Um, so it could easily been given. We have seen them given. Just like the red card that could have been given to Saka, Casemiro got a red for something similar. But some of these decisions yesterday were subjective. I get that, but all of them went against United. All the crucial ones. So and 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 the decision that went for United were that Havertz. That was an easy decision for me. That's a clear dive all day long. So that wasn't even a bit of luck for Arsenal, in my opinion. So all the subjective decisions went against United. We didn't even get one of them in our favour. I'd have taken just the onside. If we got just that, I wouldn't have been complaining. Like you say, there's no debate in it for me. It is onside, and I don't care what lines they've drawn. I have no faith that what they're doing is an accurate science. Um, I want to see what they would have produced in Europe when they used the automated offside software, and then we'd find out what the real result is. Maybe I think Sky used that technology. If there was MNF tonight, we might have been able to find out what decision they would have come to in Europe. But either way, it's so close that surely the benefit of the doubt should go to the striker. I mean, that's been lost now in this game. Offside's been given because somebody's armpit is offside or their fingernails offside. That's ridiculous. I mean, now another thing that's ruined is the celebration of goals. The best part about football as a fan is cheering when the ball hits the back of the net. Now you're like, oh, we have to wait now. We can't celebrate. We have to wait until the check is complete before we can celebrate. Yeah, that just absolutely kills the joy as a fan, doesn't it?
Yeah, and VAR has ruined football, you could say, but again, they've modernized it way too much. The money is ridiculous. What's in football nowadays, and this was inevitable. It was always going to happen. Football, they want to, like, they talk about wanting to create more goals and speed the game up by now booking players for time wasting after a set time. But you get situations like this where, I mean, I get it. If you're offside, you're offside. For me and you, we both agree that it wasn't offside. But again, I was jumping around my living room in excitement. Like, we've won the game. We've just won. What a goal by Ganacho. I was screaming my head off. And then it just felt like I'd been run over by a truck within like 5 minutes afterwards because, Declan Rice goes and scores. Then I'm flat as a pancake. And then they go and score the third. And that's it. That's the game over. I mean, you could say the game was over once Arsenal scored their second. But again, I agree. It takes it completely out of football. It takes the excitement because there's now getting to a stage of United fans or just football fans in general where they actually hesitate on celebrating goals because you don't know whether there's going to be a handball on the build up in the process, or there's going to be an offside by a toenail, or because Ganacho has got size 7 feet instead of size 5 feet or something. And he's got a toenail bit bigger than the defenders or whatever it is. Then for me, that's obviously they're the simple things. If we can now, I mean, you've got the whole rumor of the VAR about how that's worked in Europe now, and it's been experimented. So I hope that it does go. But even if it's now penalised and we do get the goal given, it still ends in 3-2, and we don't win the game. It doesn't change the result. So we've just got to sit here and just accept it and talk about it, and that's what we're doing. But doesn't mean we have to agree with it.
Yeah, and we definitely don't. So I'm going to move on to the player ratings now, which I do in all the post-match shows. Um, I'll tell you what, I'll give you the opportunity to tell me what you think each player scored out of 10. So Andre Onana, what would you give him?
I give him a 7,
Wan-Bissaka,
7.5,
Lindelof,
6.5,
um, Martinez,
6.5,
Diogo Dallo,
7.5,
Casemiro,
7,
Ericsson,
7,
Bruno,
6.5,
Anthony,
7.5,
Rashford,
7,
and Martial.
6.5,
So we had a lot of subs. So Maguire,
6,
Johnny Evans.
5.5.
It sounds surreal even saying Johnny Evans in 2023 at Manchester United.
I just don't understand it. We got rid of him 8 years ago because he was shit. Now we've brought him back 8 years later, and the fans expect and the club expect the fans to get behind this signing. You know what? I understand it because you've got City with Scott Carson, who doesn't play a minute of football, but is a brilliant guy for the lads, who's great in the dressing room, and you kind of need them type of players in your squad. I understand that, but Scott Carson doesn't play. Pep Guardiola isn't relying on Scott Carson. So realistically, why is Johnny Evans playing? If we brought back Johnny Evans to be a cheerleader, you know what? Get your Fred the Red costume. Feel free. Give Garnacho a hug when he scores a goal, and that's it. We'll pay you 50 grand a week for it because that's how stupid United are with money. But you don't play him, and that's what I don't understand about it. Because for me, what it seemed to happen is that Eric Ten Hag was reliant on Harry Maguire to leave. They agreed a fee with West Ham. So that's when we gave Johnny Evans the 1-year contract, and we were expected to sign Pavard or Todibo or Top Sober, whoever it was. But guess what? Who ruins the party? Harry Maguire. And that's what happens. And then we're now stuck with Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans. And it's like the biggest kick in the ass going, honestly.
Yeah, I totally agree. I like Johnny Evans as a person, and he's had a really good career, but I don't think he should be playing for Manchester United at 35 with his fitness record as well. I think he only played 3 times for Leicester last season. So it's very generous giving him a 1-year contract. But so Rasmus Højlund, what does he get for his cameo appearance?
I'll give him a 7.
I was expecting a bit higher there, to be honest. But yeah,
Well,
okay.
I said Anthony got my man of the match, so that's why I said 7.5. Again, Højlund, I'd give him a 7 because but again, he only played for 30 minutes, and if he's getting a 7, that's for me, that's a good performance and a good cameo. It's a good way to introduce yourself to the fans, despite it being a loss. And you know what? There was that part where we broke on the counter attack before I think it was around the 80th minute, and Rashford was sprinting down the sideline, and then all he had to do was one through ball to Hoyland to run onto.
Hmm.
But watch it back, you literally see Hoyland go from the start of the circle of the halfway line, and then he's literally on par with Rashford. We know how fast Rashford is. He's then on par with Rashford within 4 seconds, and he's there sprinted up the pitch. He is absolutely rapid. And again, I don't know how. I mean, I've got a colleague at work, and Louis, I'm speaking to you now. If you're watching this, Hoyland is going to shut you up and you owe me 20 quid, because me and Louis have a bet that Hoyland's going to score over 50. I said he's going to get over 15 goals in all competitions this season. Louis said he isn't going to get over 10 in all competitions. And I just turned around and said to him, you know what, 20 quid, I back Hoyland. Clearly you don't. Let's make a bet on it. So, Louis, if you're watching this, you know Hoyland is going to shut you up.
Yeah, Dan, I think you'll win that bet. If I'm being honest. Yes. So Garnacho, what he should have scored really. He did score. What do you give him?
I give him a 7. I think that if the goal is stays on side, then I'm giving him man of the match. He's got the winner. You know, I don't think Arsenal actually get, because don't forget as well, the reason there was so much added time on was because of the VAR situation. So that's why there was so much extra time for Arsenal to get back into the game. So yeah, if Garnacho scores that, he probably does get the man of the match. He comes on, scores the winner, and that's it. But yeah, for me, I'll give him a 7.
Yeah, I think it was Ryan who mentioned Garnacho and Hoyland combo, and that is very mouth-watering from all United fans' point of view. Seeing them two playing together, is going to be absolutely sensational.
Now,
And yeah,
there's a
Rash.
tub. Sorry, there's a player I really like the look of, and no one's scouted him yet. And I'm going to do a scout report video on him in a few days. But his name's Savio, and he's a young Brazilian right winger who's only 19, and he's left-footed, very good inverted upcoming winger. Now I know United have Amad Diallo, so we probably won't go for him, but just bookmark this or save this video or make this a clip, whatever. Guarantee you, in the next 5 years, Savio ends at a top European club. He looks really good, and right now his market value is 7 million. And it's a type of signing Brighton would make and then sell him for 80 million. He's that type of player. So, don't know if you want to watch it, if anyone wants to watch him or watch his clips or something after this, but Savio looks like a good upcoming player. But sorry, Kyle, carry on.
Okay, I'll certainly make a mental note of that and maybe check him out on YouTube, and let's see if your prediction comes true. So Ten Hag, what would you give him out of 10 for his performance yesterday?
I'd give him a 7. I felt like going up against Arsenal, we stopped Arsenal's game plan. They obviously wanted to use their wide players. You saw Martinelli and Saka when they received the ball, they were pretty much on the line of the touch line. So it was clear that their game plan was to go out wide and they either cut inside or make a cross to a player on the edge of the box, making a run into the box and try and score goals. Their tactics were very simple, and United stopped it. And the first goal that Arsenal scored, it was because Wan-Bissaka wasn't defending Martinelli. Lindelof was there. I don't know where Wan-Bissaka was, but that's what happens. And then Eriksen just isn't marking Ødegaard. So I don't know how many times I have to say that Erik ten Hag is a very stubborn manager. He's going to leave. He's going to set his tactics the way he wants to. So I give him a 7, but I just feel like that he kept Eriksen on for too long, and maybe you could have brought on maybe a Hannibal Mabry or someone like that, a player that could make a bit of a difference with their passion and pressing type instincts.
Yeah, I was calling for that during the game. I think after 70 minutes, bringing on Hannibal for Ericsson would have been a really good move in a game like that. Um, we know he really his tenacity would have been perfect in a game like that. And like you say, his pressing ability, and
Do you remember that game last season when he would play Liverpool and just came on and kicked them all and then got himself booked after about 3 minutes? Just came on and booted
yeah,
them.
yeah, I don't think Ranić liked that very much, and that's why he
No.
didn't play again the rest of that season. Um, like, I love the aggression, but it needs to be controlled aggression. You don't want him getting two yellows and getting sent off.
Yeah.
Um, but I love his enthusiasm, and think yeah, he could get some game time this season. I can see him starting in that League Cup game against Crystal Palace. And let's see what, and definitely bring him off the bench, in certain situations, and let's see what he can do. He's a brave player. Another thing that gets me about, I was going to say about Rashford's decision making in towards the end of the game. We had a number of counter attacks, on Rashford kind of made very poor decisions, and the chances were wasted. Um, but what I like about, what I kind of lost my train of thought there, but Hannibal, I can't remember what I was going to say at all there. um, yeah, Ha- yeah, Hannibal, I think can have an impact. I think if we give him an opportunity, and yesterday could have been an opportunity to do that. Yeah, Rashford's decision making was a source of frustration for me towards the end of the game. Um, he definitely needs to work on that. I think uh, Ha- Hannibal. I can't remember what I was going to say at all. I can't I can't think of the connection of Hannibal and Rashford anymore. Yeah, totally lost my train of thought there. Maybe you can help me out. Uh,
With Hannibal, I will say that. I mean, he went on loan to Birmingham last season. He did okay. I mean, he got their goal of the season with that very clever free kick. And yeah, Hannibal's a decent player, but could you say that they were only on the bench due to the limitations of the bench? I mean, Sancho wasn't available, McTominay wasn't available, plus the other injuries that we've got. It was clear that's why we're on the bench, and they don't have to play. But what annoyed me is that Rashford. I mean, we've talked about Rashford's decision making, and with Rashford, it what I don't understand is that moment really annoyed me where Rashford could have squared it to Hoyland, who was running onto it, and all it had to do was Rashford to pass it forward, completely separate the defensive line of Arsenal, and Hoyland had a tap in. I can guarantee you, because he was running that fast, no one was going to catch him, and if anyone was to catch him, they would have had to make a foul to stop him. Rashford is a player who's now, 24, 25 years old, and he's come through our youth academy graduate, and he knows how much pressure it is to be a young player at Manchester United, a player on their debut, playing a top team. And Rashford didn't really help out Hoyland, in my opinion. And that's what my worry is going to be now. I love Rashford. I think he's a great player for us. Obviously, our top goal scorer last season, scoring 30 goals in all competitions and also getting, 11 assists, whatever it was. He had a very good season last season, but he's a very selfish player. And for me, I just believe that I hope that Hoyland isn't a waste. And it's clear that when Garnacho plays, no doubt Garnacho and Hoyland are going to build this sort of relationship and chemistry because they're going to absolutely cook together.
yeah, I suddenly remembered what I was going to say, and that's it. Another gripe I have with Rashford is that he pulls out of challenges because he's afraid of getting injured. Hannibal
Yeah.
Mabry would not do that. He's not afraid to get stuck in. He's a brave player. You noticed that yesterday a couple of times. Rashford, there was 50-50 challenges which he pulled out of because he didn't want to get injured. Yeah, I don't like seeing that. It's kind of cowardly from players when they do that. And Rashford suddenly, he's not the player that we seen break onto the scene against Midtjylland and Arsenal in 2016. He's no longer that young, enthusiastic player. He's now, his body language tells us that he thinks he's a superstar who believes his own hype. He doesn't work that hard without the ball. I have to say, yes, his goal was brilliant, well taken goal. But like you said, we've been frustrated with his decision making. He should have played Hoyland in. He pulls out of challenges and he doesn't work hard enough off the ball. Um, so I expect a lot more from him. And if I'm being honest, I don't see him scoring 30 goals again this season. If he does, happy days. But can you see him repeating that goal tally from last season?
Well, yeah, actually, because so many people forget that it wasn't all season. He had a crap start to the first half of the season, if you remember. I mean, I don't know whether you like the United stand or not. I'm a massive admirer of theirs. I think they do very good content. But Mark Goldbridge was saying on the video that please take the money from PSG when they were apparently giving us offers for Rashford and Goldbridge said that he can't see Rashford getting any better. And that was near November, October time. And then Rashford out of nowhere, just something clicked in his brain and he found himself scoring in every single position and he was absolutely battering defences. And then there was that moment where I think it was like 7 games in a row, he scored a goal and he was just scoring goals for fun. And it came out of nowhere, and then eventually that goal drought began again. So it's clearly he's got the capabilities, and he's clearly got the talent there to do it again. So why not? I mean, he's not going to be the main man anymore now. Hoyland's here, so he's just got to work with Hoyland. But you no doubt Hoyland, he has the strength, he has the passing and playmaking ability as well. So no doubt Hoyland's going to help out Rashford. So hopefully Rashford helps out Hoyland as well, because it's not about just getting goals, Rashford. It's also about getting the assists and actually helping your team, because Rashford, I honestly think right now this is Rashford's mentality. He would rather score a goal and lose 3-1 to Arsenal than win a game 2-1 and not score. That's what I think it is. And you kind of want that from your players, because, you know, they give a shit when they don't score. But that means they're also not team players. And that's where I think Rashford's issue is at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very interesting point you make. Yeah. Oh, I just don't think Rashford is giving us everything that he has. I think he has much more to give if he applied himself more. But
Don't forget as well, obviously, under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, whether you liked him or hated him, he wasn't a good coach. And Bruno Fernandes, Rashford, Martial, whatever player you want to describe as, they did not play well, really. They did not develop, they didn't get coached into be better players. So for that tenure under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, players just got older. That was literally it. They didn't get better. They didn't work on tactics. They didn't work on themselves. So Rashford, you could say, still probably has the mental age of a 23-year-old when he's turning 25 in October. And them years do catch up to you. And I'm hoping with senior players like around him, like Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes, Rafael Varane, they've played with top players. Apart from, I mean, Bruno Fernandes as well, but he played with Ronaldo for Portugal. Casemiro and Varane played for elite sides with Real Madrid. So no doubt they can share advice to Rashford and how to for him to work on his game.
yeah, yeah, that would that would be the perfect people to take advice from. Yeah, Rashford. I mean, he could learn from even Ronaldo. You know, if he wants to become the best in the world. But his body language on the pitch at the moment is it seems to be someone who's just satisfied with, like you said, just scoring a goal. Um, you know, was it Eden Howard? What do you call him? So Eden, I forgot. He's been so irrelevant for a while now. I've forgotten his name.
Hazard.
Eden Hazard. Wasn't he? Didn't he say in an interview once that he was just happy if he scored a goal and didn't feel the need to score a second goal or something like that? Now that's a terrible
Something like
attitude.
that. Something like that. But thing, you've had so many players come out who've played with Eden Hazard and said he was one of the laziest players in training, but on the football pitch he was absolutely dynamite. And Hazard, he was one of them players where he said, if I score a goal and you guys lose 2-1, I've done my job. I've scored my goal.
That's
I've
what
done
he
my
said.
job.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what he said.
and
Yeah.
and literally, that's the wrong mentality. That's the wrong mentality to have in a footballer. And again, like Simon says, there's no I in team. I don't think he's dyslexic. I don't know if he knows how to spell team properly, but I do believe that it is correct. There's no I in team, and Rashford just is very selfish, I believe.
Um, Yeah, Stu here says the Rice talk is nonsense. He was caught up the pitch for Rashford's goal. Plus, he made a Horlicks of the Garnacho goal, a cumbersome dope. He also marked fresh air for Fulham's equaliser last week. Yeah, there was some analysis from Phil McNulty from the BBC was one who said that Rice was the best player on the pitch. For me, that's absolute nonsense. He did nothing except score a deflected goal when he was unmarked, and all
Just
of a
saying
sudden,
as well, if Kobe Mainoo was on that pitch like in pre-season, nothing you'd see from Rice. Kobe Mainoo absolutely pocketed Declan Rice last in pre-season, and I can't wait to see Kobe Mainoo back because he's definitely one of them players that looks like he's going to have a serious deal of development like saga this season.
yeah, I'm really looking forward to him being in the starting 11, and I can see that happening. The manager in that game where he got injured against Real Madrid in pre-season, he started that match with 10 first teamers. That is how highly the manager rates him. He wasn't playing against Wrexham, he wasn't playing against Dortmund or Bilbao when the French players were playing. He was starting with the first team. So the manager has big plans for Kobe Menu this season, and I'm happy to see it too. Stu here says, but yet the British media keeps spinning their latest average poster boy. They did the same shit with Dyer and Maguire in their infancy. Yeah, Maguire. Declan Rice is a good player, but his performances get exaggerated at times, by the media because he's an England hero. But anyway, we shall end the show there. If everyone could please subscribe to the podcast, drop us a like on the video, and get more of your comments in. And I will see everybody again soon. And Dan, it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
And we shall definitely work together again as the season progresses, and hopefully it gets better than this, and hopefully we do Arsenal at Old Trafford because we really owe them one. Okay, then I shall see you later.